Yeah, welcome back, everybody. We are back, and what a wonderful weekend of rugby we've had this week, obviously, and Hugh are away this weekend. They're in France enjoying some live rugby. So I'll be joined by Kofi, Vuyo, and Jade. And we've got a lot and plenty to discuss today regarding what has transpired over the weekend. And obviously a lot of rugby taking place today as well, this evening. So we can also do some predictions over that. But first of all, we're going to look at the Springboks and what took place yesterday. We're going to look at injuries, what has happened to Antoine Dupont, and how much of an impact that has on the French team. But yeah, I mean, without wasting any time, gentlemen, let's get into it. Springboks versus Ireland last night. Very interesting game, very interesting takes. We've seen, obviously, over social media in the past couple of hours that took place, obviously, that a lot of people have their own views. A lot of people have their own takes. But, Vuyo, what is your biggest take from yesterday's game between the Springboks and Ireland?
Yeah, for me, I think it's good afternoon, everyone. I think for me, it's pretty simple. I think when two of the best defensive teams meet, it's going to go down to the wire. It's going to go down to who makes the least mistakes and who takes their opportunities. I think if you look at South Africa, for example, they missed one or two crucial moments on attack, and Ireland also obviously missed one as well, but I think it was a matter of who's going to make the least mistakes, and I think South Africa obviously made more, and also in terms of turnovers, I think Ireland kept them out quite well, made a couple of good turnovers in good areas, which they kicked into the South African 22. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, look, it was a spectacle for us to watch, but I still think both teams were a little bit holding back on some tactical things.
All right, holding back on tactical things. Kofi, you've had a fair share of your views regarding defensive elements or tackles, or actually the breakdown area. I mean, what are the other takes that you have? What is your response regarding, obviously, yesterday's game?
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is nice and warm. It's very cold here in Cape Town, unlike it should be. What a game, eh? So exciting. Massive build-up. Huge intensity in the game. You could feel it. It was palpable. I agree with Pravik to the extent to say that I don't believe, or let me rather say, in a later stage, in the knockout games, I think both teams will adapt to the teams that they play against, and I think we'll see different tactics. I think this was definitely, from the South African point of view, a hit out and an experimentation to a large extent, with their 7-1. My biggest take on the 7-1 is that if the backs aren't firing, there's very little you can do to change the game. It's all hell bent on forward dominance, which SA had, but in clinical moments, obviously, they couldn't put points on the board. It's a shame because I'm a big Mani Libok attacking fly half supporter. But we know when you miss five points and in total 11 points, as kickers, there's definitely going to be changes. So we'll expect to see that. But I think from a physicality point of view, I think the Irish stood up very well. I'm of the opinion that I think to put scoreboard pressure, we probably need to start Ox, Nche, over Malherbe. Not over Malherbe, over Kitsoff, excuse me. And then I'm a bit worried with Malherbe's overextension in the scrum. I'm sure we'll get to that later, but it is creeping in as an issue. We conceded a few points against Scotland. In the Rugby Championships, I have conceded a few points there as well. And then yesterday, I think there were 6 points that were conceded in terms of the overextension of the tight head. So I think that's definitely something that the coaches will look at. From a defensive point of view, I thought South Africa is extremely good. Stood up well in terms of the scramble D. Very impressive performance by Damien Dialendi and Damien Willemse. I've got so many takes, but yeah, I think all in all, you could see that was Team 1 versus Team 2 in the world. So, very nice game.
Okay, no, fair enough. Very nice game indeed. Jade, we're talking tactical expertise now with regards to looking at this particular game. Where do you think South Africa, or what do you think Rassie and Ninaba wanted to focus on purely on this game? Because obviously, Kofi just mentioned 7-1 split. So we expect to see a lot of forward dominance. We expect to see when the fresh legs run on, a change in power, obviously, up front. And I don't think we saw a lot of it in that second half when the bomb squad came in. I mean, what are your takes regarding the 7-1 split and the impact they had yesterday, and your overall view of the particular game from yesterday?
Good evening, guys. Good evening. Good to be back. Well, yesterday, guys, we've heard it on the pod a few times before that, the top 4 teams in the world is a cut above the rest. And I personally think when those 4 teams play each other, it's a coin toss on the day who is going to win that game. I think it's very close between those 4 teams. But going on the tactical approach yesterday, I think the Boks were good at set play in the first half. They stole a few Ireland's balls. I have to, again, every time he has a good game on the pod, I'm going to apologize to Frans van Mostert. He did very well in the first half. He stole a few balls. He disrupted Ireland's line-out. Ireland had to basically reset their line-out, went more basic, and got Peter O'Malley, to bail him out of the line-out and to get more fluidity. But that was because the Boks set up and they read their pod system very, very well in the first half. If you look at it from a perspective where Ireland has been at, 90% in terms of the execution. They have a 5-meter line-out in the Andy Farrell era, something to that effect. I'm not sure that's 100%, but I think it's up to 90%. And yesterday they had 3 line-outs in the Bok red zone, and the Boks stole the ball, or they overthrew it. So that was very, very well done. It's a positive from the Springbok perspective. In terms of the scrums went okay in the first half. They were piggybacked off a lot of penalties. But I do also feel Ben O'Keefe in the first half was the ball was at the back of the scrum, and he asked the 8 to use it, or he asked the 9 to use it. He never really gave the opportunity for the second shove. It was only in the second half where it came through. Regarding Frans Malherbe's overextension, I don't think it's a problem, guys. I find a big problem in this World Cup with referees not checking the loose head or the tight head of the least dominant scrummager taking the heat. I think that's a big problem here. I saw it in the first game with Antonio and the Groot, and we saw it yesterday with Portier and Frans Malherbe. Guys are not taking a heat, and then it looks like they're overextending. They need to sort that out, because I think they're dwelling away from scrum dominance over there. The first half at the breakdown, we saw Van der Fleer and O'Malley and Doris, have a field day at the breakdown. They were at ball in hand lots of times. Second half, when Kwagga and Eskom came on, it was a different ball game. I think the Boks controlled the breakdown. So that was a plus from the 7-1 perspective. And I must say, although the Boks never showed the dominance in the second half like they did against New Zealand in the game at Twickenham, but Oxen Che and Trevor Nyukane, the combination coming from the bench, guys, is explosive. It's I don't know if there's a team in World Rugby that can contain that. It's very, very positive. However, the Boks did leave a few points out there on the field. I think that in the second half, they were the better team. But guys, you look at the scoreboard, and Ireland managed to win. And from their side, from Ireland's perspective, they'd be saying, well, we won ugly against the second best team in the world. Why can't we win this World Cup now? We don't need to win. We don't need to win good, and we don't need to look brilliant and flawless in every win. We can win ugly. And that's how you're going to win the World Cup. So from my perspective in yesterday's game, the overall take, I said, yes, South Africa, kicks from Mani Lebok, a skew throw in from Dion Fourie when they were in the red zone. All of those aspects they can look at in terms of the execution. However, you can also look at it from Ireland's perspective, how much confidence you'll get from this game when they had a scrum that was battling and a line-out that was battling as well, and they still managed to win the game. So a good game of rugby. I would say let's look forward to it in the quarterfinals again, because we're going to get two similar quarterfinals, with this intensity.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Vuyo, as a backline coach, and especially you and Kofi, actually, I can direct this to both of you guys at this point in time. Looking at the backs, the Irish backs controlled by Johnny Sexton and obviously Gibson Park, and looking at the Springbok backs, Faf de Klerk and Manny Liebok controlling the both sides. When you look at the both teams, I mean, which backline would you say was more dominant than the other in creating opportunities, in getting their backs into space, in putting their forward pack into a good front football, in terms of kicking for what is this territory? Which backline out of the two? And Jade will come into the forwards element later. But which backline out of the two was more creative and putting more positive hits on defense, also gaining ground on point of contact?
Yeah, I think it's actually a very good question, because I think both 12s had a brilliant game, because both 12s were pretty dominant in their area, because the 12s were running against 10s. I mean, there was a time where I think Bandiaki got a line break off, I think it was a missed tackle from Manny Liebok. And the same thing for Damien Delende, he got a line break or a missed tackle from Johnny Sexton. So, yeah, you can, I think for me, the difference was, as you say, like who got the better purchase out of the whole forward pack. I think if you look at James Lowe's, this is James Lowe. It's the wing, left wing. So he was quite involved in the game yesterday. He got a couple of turnovers. I think for me, if I look at that and I say, okay, cool. If my winger is making turnovers, then what else can how else can you influence the game? And I think that was a very good thing from their side. I mean, I saw Jesse Creel 1 or 2 times, but I wasn't convinced. Whereas for Ireland, I mean, we can also say the space was there on the outside, but it's how you get there that was a biggest problem. I mean, both teams scored off wide outside spaces because they shut the inside. But I think it's a matter of just staying within the game. And I honestly think that Gibson Park had a better game than Faf, and I think that's where it started. And obviously Johnny had a better game than Manny, although I still believe both 12s had a solid game. We didn't see much of the 13s, but Lowe was brilliant. I think as a winger, to have that kind of influence in the game puts you in a different platform.
Kofi?
Yeah, I have my sentiment around. I think Manny actually played a good game outside of the missed kicks. And obviously everyone's going to dwell on the missed kicks because the game was lost from a points perspective on that. But I thought, his kicking for line was good. I think his ability to find the line with very tough angles was good, off the left and off the right peg. I think where Ireland were really good was with manipulating with their double swivel plays. And I think against defenses that don't even put as much pressure as what the Boks do, I think there's going to be even more opportunities for them to score there. The defensive system that the Boks employ is really like getting off your line and putting pressure on with the man on the ball, and not really managing the space in between players. And I think if you look at the try that was scored by Ireland, with Hansen in the corner, Boks actually had more numbers than what they were attackers. So the double swivel obviously creates a little bit of an overlap that side for Hansen to go in untouched. But I think that game was the parity of the forwards. where the Boks could have kicked out a lot more and backed their line out. They didn't. And we've always known, we've always seen that Mane isn't an 85-90% kicker. Even for the Stormers, he's not. So I think, like, back the guys. I think CA mentioned it. Back the guys at what they're good for. Mane's not really great at kicking for goal, which is why I think Pollard comes in place of a hooker. That kind of explains to us what the thinking is behind there. But you've got to back the horse that you've chosen from the get-go. So, how that horse runs is also up to you. So I think there was a locus or a lack of, rather, leadership in those scenarios, which proves to why the likes of Dwayne Vermeulen is so important in games such as this. Sia went off the field and you're probably looking at 10, 15 minutes to go. You've got a fairly new 7 in there. Go for the line, use the forward pack a little bit more. But they didn't do that, and they didn't use that. And so I think they were punished for that ability to call it when they could.
Vuyo, do you want to share something?
Yeah, look, on what Kofi is talking about, but Mane, I'm an advocate of players feeling happy and comfortable on the field. So the fact that he's starting to use both feet to put him to basically kicking for touch or kicking for the lie or whatever it is, I feel like he's starting to get comfortable. But the biggest issue is that now the criticism will come because no one will talk about the line kicks that he got. Actually, he got some good perches on the line kicks. I think he got like 40 to 50 meters on most of the line kicks that he got. But then no one will talk about that, but everyone will talk about the post. So for me, I think it's good that he's starting to get comfortable. He's starting to feel pretty comfortable within the jersey. So it's a matter of now, what's the next level? And if he's not going to be the number one kicker, then they might as well start looking at who actually can replace that kicking role, but leaving Mane Dupont in a position where we can be still firing on attack.
Yeah, fair enough. Jade, do you also want to jump on to this backline expertise and then we jump into the backs?
Yeah. Okay, now on the Mane Dupont topic, guys, the thing is upsetting for me regarding Dupont. Listen, Pollard's won us a World Cup for South Africa at 10, He's a brilliant player. But he's also came back from a big injury now. We don't know what Andre Pollard are we going to get, how much game time he's actually had. Where you're sitting with a guy like Mane Dupont who's got that backline running. The backline looks exciting. Look at the try that was scored yesterday. This is evident, But the questions you're getting in the media before this game was regarding Mane Dupont's goal kicking. It's unnecessary pressure on the guy regarding his goal kicking. It's been. I still think, okay, fair enough. You are in the spotlight. You are a pro rugby player. You are the driver that should win the Boxer World Cup at 10. But sometimes I just think that the media is out to get this guy at 10. Every little goal kick, every little mistake he makes, there's a cloud over it. Instead of looking at the good that he does. His line kicking is brilliant. He slipped the one tackle of Bandi Aki. Bandi Aki ran at him again and he tackled him. What I'm trying to say is here that sometimes we just need to look at the positivity, what the guy did on the field. Yes, Mane Dupont is not Andre Pollard when it comes to goal kicking. But who's to say Pollard would have made the kicks? Last year is Australia beat us, I think it was in Brisbane, with a tackle that Coetzee made on Mapipi that game. And Pollard kicked, 60% to poles at there. So it's not uncertain. Pollard he's not Ramos. He's not a Mervyn Jamanet in front of poles, He has got BMT, but he's not a 95% goal kicker. I'm still saying that, bring the guy back in, it's fine, but the unnecessary criticism that Mane's got, even before this game, was unnecessary. And he's a human being. We should actually learn that, listen, let's protect this guy a little bit because there is a player there.
Yeah, 100%. Forward pack, the breakdown was quite prominent last night. The scrums were quite prominent last night. The line-outs were important. So set piece, very important. Breakdown, very important. Jade, looking at let's start with the set piece first. Obviously, you also mentioned a bit of the Irish pack not taking the hit on engage. And also, let's look at those lineouts and who won those particular. Because rugby, all we know is that rugby is about the small battles, and within those small battles, you need to really get a 70-75% purchase in terms of winning those small battles in order for you to kind of completely either dominate or also have an edge over your opponents. So let's look at those set piece from yesterday. You said something about lineouts that the Springboks had won over the Irish.
Yeah, so the start of the game, the Ireland had, 3 or 4 lineouts in South Africa's red zone in the 22. And you could see South Africa read their pots. You could see it. Mostert, even the steal from Peter Steph the Toy on the 5 meter, they read Ireland's pots. And if you're looking at Tennis Bird and you're looking at, Ryan East tall is over 2 meters, but Bird is not that tall. Peter O'Malley is not that tall. Doris is not that tall. So the Boks had the height over them. And they read their pots. They stole their ball. They disrupted their lineup. Ireland went to the back. They went to table, overthrew it. Sometimes the Boks stole it. So their lineup was disrupted. What happened then? Peter O'Malley decided to take control of it. They went back to basic lineouts, started to win the ball, and started to come right in, get their lineouts right. So the Boks had him in the lineouts yesterday. And then I must admit, guys, it's a big problem for South Africa if we're going to have Deon Fourie in the last 15 to 20 minutes on the field, and he can't execute a front ball from a 5 meter line. That's a big mistake that was made yesterday. I also feel that if Deon Fourie is playing at hooker, listen, we need to get our tail ball as well, and we can't just rely on our front ball. So that's it's a big concern for me in terms of the Boks. The last 15 minutes, if Bongi does go off, does Fourie have the ability to throw the dart? Does he have the confidence to throw the dart? He did throw one yesterday, I must give him credit, but the one that he threw in skew 5 meters out or 10 meters out from the line was, it was a little bit of a soft giveaway there. In terms of the breakdown, first off, brilliant from Van der Fleer, Doris O'Malley, they were brilliant at the breakdown. Ireland controlled the breakdown. But then when Kwagga and Eskom came on, we hardly heard Van der Fleer's name. We hardly heard Doris's name. The Boks controlled the breakdown. They started to counter-ruck. They started to get turnovers, started to get penalties. So for me, the first half, the breakdown was controlled by Ireland. Ireland got a lot of the ball sense, but once the Boks brought on those two guys, Kwagga and Eskom, the breakdown changed. Fourie also came on as well, so they had 3 out-and-out, what you call fetches on the field. The breakdown changed, and the Boks got more front foot ball at breakdown. Interesting would be, what do they do now? Is there place for both Kwagga and Eskom on the bench moving forward? Because you do think that once Pollard comes in, or let's put it this way, I don't see the Boks playing a quarterfinal without Philly, Pollard, and Dwayne Vermeulen in the team. So we'll need to know how would they handle that. So I think one of Eskom or Kwagga would miss out to get the balance right. But in terms of the breakdown, like I said, the Boks in the first half, Ireland had the upper hand, but in the second half, once that bomb squad going on, the Boks ruled the breakdown. Scrummaging, boys, I can't say it enough. Oxen chair at scrum time is an absolute nightmare for any single tight prop out there. I don't know how they're going to contain him. I don't know. He is a strike weapon. Him and Trevor is, I can't rave enough of those two shorties in front. They are brilliant. Brilliant. That's a real weapon from South Africa. Came yesterday, disrupted Ireland's pack, and we all knew it. We said it on the pod. Ireland do not have the strongest props from the bench. I mean, Beetham and the other prop they played us not in the class of Ox and Trevor. So the Boks controlled the scrums in the second half. 2 soft penalties, in my opinion. I really don't think that overextension from Francois Malherbe was fair. And the second one, the early engagement, Conor Murray took his time to throw the ball into the scrum. He did take his time. So really 2 soft penalties, but it is what it is. Going forward for the Boks, that scrum from the bench is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I also noticed that the amount of time Murray actually waits and holds it for a bit, and obviously that affects your balance in those scrums. That affects your positioning with your feet, obviously your hips, the back, your shoulders, the bind, etc. Maybe that's something that they've noticed on a tactical aspect in terms of, okay, if we hold the scrum a bit longer before we feed the ball into it, then we could get a penalty for overextending or hinging or losing or losing your feet in terms of also the elbow pointing down. There's so many aspects that involve penalizable offenses in the scrum area as well. Kofi and Vuyo, your guys' thoughts. We'll start with you, Kofi. Your guys' thoughts on the forward dominance between the two sides.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ireland stood up very well. I thought Todd Furlong scrummed very well in the first half. Just in general, I thought they were very good. I thought Peter Omani was quiet, but he did a lot of the grunt work if you look at the game closely. Henderson was very good for the Irish as well. But the 7-1 I felt worked. I think from an execution point of view, the box could have been a little bit better. And we've spoken about this, I think. But I think your question is basically leading me to answer as to whether the Springboks had the forward dominance that they thought that they would. And I think that to a large extent, yes, but not enough to justify doing the 7-1 split again. I think they'd be more comfortable doing a 6-2 split, having two backs on the bench, one of those backs being a pivot, because I think there's a few guys that can be a utility, that can play either fullback, wing, or center. And then obviously you've got a scrum off there that can change the tempo and the pace of the game. And then you're looking at 6 guys off the bench that could come through onto the field. 7-1 is a little bit way too lopsided. There's not much you can do off the bench from the backline perspective. And I think that's where the issues lie. Like, if one of your centers gets injured, how do you then change the game? Who plays in there? What makes sense? If Creel had gotten injured yesterday, who would have gone to 13?
Yeah.
And then so saying, who then would have played on the wing had Reinach come on? If Faf isn't having a good game, really, who changes the game? How quickly do you change the game with him being the only long-range kicker that the Boks have effectively? So I think from that experimentation perspective, I don't think it's worth it. I think looking forward, they'll probably bring Pollard in. And, like a guy like Lebok can basically play the alternate Yankees role. That first win in New Zealand after a while, where the Boks, I think, won 36-35, if I'm not mistaken. They changed the game. I think it was 5 years ago. They changed the game in the second half. And that's probably what you're looking for from a guy like Lebok. He changes the game in the second half. What does it mean for guys like Willie Leroux? I'm not sure. But Damien had a solid game yesterday. Played really well, linked up nicely. Body language looks good, looks more confident on the ball. There's more time for him to play as well instead of him playing at 10. So, yeah, I think there was definitely parity in the forwards, But it would probably lean a little bit more to the South African side, having more opportunity. I think in the second half, if you look at the territory stats, I think South Africa spent about 75% in Ireland's territory, which talks to the fact that they had the forward ascendancy in the game, and Ireland had to use James Lowe with the long left peg to exit quite a few times. So, yes, but does it justify doing it again? I don't think so.
Fair enough. Vuyo, I'm going to be a bit of a conspiracy theorist here before you jump in. We understand, obviously, Group A and Group B are on the same side in terms of the quarterfinal aspect. Looking at the decision-making on that field yesterday or last night, Springboks, 99% of the time, I would say they get a penalty on halfway line. definitely go for touch. Obviously, they back their forwards to gain another penalty from a more perspective. And yesterday, knowing fully well that they've got a 60% in terms of goal kicking in Manilibog, 60-65, give or take. They've got 60-65% in Faf de Klerk and probably a 50% in Cheslin Colby. But they still went for long-range kicks. Now, conspiracy theorists that I am, I'm looking at the groups. Would you say Springboks are backing themselves to play France in the quarterfinals rather than back themselves to play New Zealand in the quarterfinals, but also touching on the decision-making on the field last night?
Yeah. That's a good question, man. I think like I said in the first week, the Springboks are holding back. There's something that is not like they're holding back. They don't wanna, because everyone knows you're gonna kick for touch. You're gonna be in a position where you're gonna drive, right? Everyone knows that. That's the Springbok level, but they're not. Now they're starting to kick for poles and do all of those other things. And I think that's why I say they're still holding back on certain things, on a couple of things. If you look at the lineouts yesterday, obviously as Kofi had said and Jade, we took a couple of balls away from Ireland, but we never got the scrum dominance. I mean, that's a tactical thing, because that's why Ireland did what they did. They didn't put the ball in immediately, because they just needed to see if the South African team could hold the pressure from the back, because the props are in charge of the hit, but the pressure has to come from the locks and the eighth man. So now they just need to see if they can hold the pressure, and this is what happens when a team doesn't go in the scrum with you in terms of they engage. They don't engage. They just wait for you to hit, and then you overextend, which is a tactical thing. And then obviously with the 9 holding the ball a little bit longer and just telling the ref that it's stop moving, like stuff like that. It is a tactical thing, and I think it worked brilliantly. Because if you look at the scrums in the first half, they weren't moving. They were just solid until obviously the bomb squad came in, and then they started scrum dominance a little bit. But to answer your question, I think for me, I still say South Africa is holding back, guys. South Africa is holding back on something. I don't know what it is. They should be kicking for touch in those instances. I mean, the 52 meters, the 52-meter kick, that should have been gone for touch and then drive from there, because Manilibok is getting good touch finders. So he would have probably put us, 10 meters out and then drive from there, but you don't see it. Because that's what I'm saying. They are doing the bare minimum to win the game. They're doing the bare minimum to win the game, but unfortunately yesterday it didn't go according to plan. And then on the France issue, I don't think they even thinking that far in terms of who's better to play quarterfinals is in New Zealand or France. I think they're just, as I say, they're just going through bare minimum. As long as you finish top 2, you are safe. But then obviously the time is going to come when they have to face a big team.
Yeah, big team indeed. Guys, feel free to also join in as your listeners. Feel free to chime in and obviously share what your guys' thoughts on what transpired last night in the group. What group is this? Group B match between South Africa and Ireland. But we also want to touch on other aspects as well that transpired over the week regarding France, injuries, Namibia, and the issues that are happening with Namibia at this point. They've been through 7 World Cups, I think. That's what Allister Coetzee had said in one of his pressers. And I find it difficult for a nation to have been present at such a highly rated competition in terms of rugby, in terms of the importance in terms of showcasing your nation's expertise, your nation's pride in a tournament like this. And Namibia has been around this tournament 7 times, and there seems to be nothing that's improving. Jade, we've seen the caliber of coaching that has been introduced to Namibia at this point. But on Friday, or was it Thursday, against France, I mean, they had to make wholesale changes to their team, whereby France had to play roughly club players, guys who were playing for, hypothetically, Pirates Rugby Club in Johannesburg three months ago, and 3 months later, now they find themselves playing against world number 3, France, in France. I mean, what are your thoughts with regards to tier 2 nations like Namibia, who don't have, obviously, the budgets, who don't have the player quality, who don't play enough competition to actually get themselves up there? I mean, we've seen what Super Rugby has done to Drua and Fiji, and currently, I mean, Namibia can never seem to get over the line. What are your thoughts with regards to this aspect?
Yeah, you know what, Scoop, in terms of Namibia, we can also say that maybe SA Rugby, pulling the Welwitchians from domestic competitions didn't really help them anymore. Maybe there wasn't budget for them. A few World Cups ago, or the last World Cup at least, they had a few more guys dwelling around in the Currie Cup, but now it looks really, they really don't have those players anymore. So you can't go in. I think of all of the teams there, Namibia are the least professional. A few of the guys are playing rugby in Israel, so it's a shame. The guys that side up in Namibia, I mean, from where I am, we at school level also we do play rugby with a lot of Namibians, in the provincial team, because they do school in the Northern Cape, but you can see that they love rugby that side, and they need help. There are, I don't know, Vuyo will maybe differ because, I mean, he's coached in Kenya, but in terms of the 15-man teams, maybe them in Zimbabwe, the only 2 teams in Africa, that's a cut above the rest. Maybe I'm wrong here, but Namibia needs to play more games together against more professional outfits. We've seen with Uruguay what the South American competition did to them. Also, Uruguay do have a team on the 7th circuit. The same with Portugal. That did help their game. But Namibia don't have that. They're not playing they used to play in the Vodacom Cup, for example. They don't have a team in the Vodacom Cup anymore. They don't have a team in the B division, Currie Cup B division anymore. Some of the guys are playing club rugby in South Africa, and if we're being brutally honest, our club rugby game is not where it was in certain regions, in like 4 or 5 years ago. So I'd say it's a shame. It's really a shame. They are trying. I mean, they've got a very good coaching unit there with Allister, Coetzee, Pine, Pinar, and Proudfoot. But you can also only coach who you have at your disposal. And what experience do they get? Where to from now? What do you do? Do you try and get them into the Currie Cup? Do you try and, how do you get them in? Where do you create another tournament for them? Where you try and get Namibia to be a part of, maybe like a super sport challenge where it's run during the UFC. But there's so many competitions in South Africa, it's difficult to fit them in somewhere. The other thing regarding the fixtures, I feel for them, guys. I feel for them. I mean, they've played 4 games already, right? They played 4 games already. And they played three games already, but it's difficult for them. They don't have a squad. Then they still get thrown to play New Zealand and France within 7 days or 8 days from each other before they're playing Italy. The fixtures wasn't for them. The fixtures will never ever be for Tier 2 nation at the World Cup. I think the ILB must look at maybe extending the World Cup for another week just to give them some on the end, and the Tier 2 teams some form of player protection, player wellness, because it's really unfair. You can't go and make 13 changes against the second best team and the World Cup favourites here.
No, 100%. Fully agree. Vuyo, you wanted to jump in as well on this particular subject?
Yeah, I think Jade is spot on in terms of what the situation is in Namibia. I think for me, it's World Rugby is putting in a lot of money towards Namibia in terms of the tier 2, tier 3 nation. I think we'll go to tier 3. They probably pumping in a good amount of money in the setup. But the question is, who is auditing that? Who is auditing what World Rugby is giving Namibia? Because I can guarantee you, Allister, Coetzee, Proudfoot, all of those coaches that are there, they're all being paid by World Rugby. So what is the point? Why are you paying someone if you're not looking for results? What's the point? Why are they pumping in so much money? Because the union is the biggest issue. The union is the biggest issue when it comes to what is the vision of the union. I think that's where, when I coached Namibia in 2015, their sevens team, and it was quite sad for me in terms of what I saw, what they have, and what's the plan with the union. And I wouldn't have wanted to be in that situation, but obviously we had to work with what we had. At that time, and then we've got actually a couple of good players, which Damien Stevens was playing for us. We got I coached JC Heiling at the Kings. There was even Johan Tromp at the time. There were a couple of good players, but they don't seem to be having enough quality within their system to sustain it. And as Jade said, it's unfair that you play Italy first, which is one of your easiest games in the pool, and then you play New Zealand, France, and then you're going to play Uruguay last. So it's a question of when are you going to get the balance of resting players to try and target one game, which is, I think they would have targeted the Uruguay game, but you're coming off a 96-0 loss, and you are trying to find a way. That's why I'm saying, for me, I think World Rugby has a lot to do with this. Wow, they are pumping in money in terms of coaching staff, paying coaching staff, but they're not looking at what is happening within the union, because in Namibia, the biggest issue is the union.
Yeah. Kofi? Jade, sorry?
Yeah, because, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, they weren't even in the under 20B division this year, the tournament. They weren't even there. I think Zimbabwe was the African representative there. So it just shows you that somewhere something is not right in Namibia. I might be wrong. I might be wrong, but I caught Zimbabwe being in a tournament. So something might just not be right in that union. Like we say, are we as SA Rugby supposed to look after them now? Or, like New Zealand and Australia is trying to do with, the Moana Pacific and the Drua, or is it World Rugby? Is there scope to get a Namibian and a Zimbabwean team into some competition? Can we do something like that? Getting maybe mixing off something like that. But they need to play more games together, guys. We can't just hear the likes of Damien Stevens only at the World Cup. We need to see these guys week in, week out in a competition, and that's the only way they'll get better.
Yeah, fair enough. We've got Lux, listener, obviously wants to share some of his views over the weekend, what has taken place. Lux, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. I think you guys have raised some very valid points over the course of the discussion. Maybe just two things on my side, two important things. I think firstly, I don't think last night's result, and I know we're passionate fans, but I don't think last night's result really has a bearing in the context of the tournament. But we can dissect it. But I think if you look at our most important game was Scotland, and we passed that test, right? We ticked that box. So I think looking at the perspective of the book management or the Brains Trust was to say, okay, well, we've passed the test. Whether we win or lose against Ireland, we're through, right? It's either we face New Zealand or France. So what do? They take off Dwayne, they take off Philly, and they don't bring in Pollard even on the bench. They do the 7-1 split and see what comes about. The second most important factor for me was that the core leadership of that team, especially amongst the forwards, was taken off before 50 minutes. Eben, Katsov, Usia Golis, all taken off. But we were able to actually maintain the scoreboard right at the death of that game. We all actually almost won that game, in terms of where we were in the field and when that last whistle was blown. So for me, I feel like no panic stations should be sort of sounded. And I think there's perhaps a plan, in the chaos. And I think that there is definitely something that we should look forward to in the quarters. I would definitely, at this stage, to be honest, I'd face a French team that is without two talismen. Dupont, hopefully he doesn't come back by the quarters, and a Tamac that is obviously out of the World Cup, and a Willemse that is out of the World Cup. Sure, they've got their centre back and a couple of their players back, but I think we've never beaten New Zealand twice in one season, in a number of years, almost a decade or even more. So most likely of that happening again, very slim. So I think I'd rather face the French in the quarterfinal. The challenge there then lies in the fact that it's a host nation. Let's hope the referee decisions are right and the TMOs are able to view their cameras, tongue in cheek. The second point is that on your point about Namibia, and I'm really concerned about it because World Rugby seem to have a plan for the likes of Argentina in having a Jaguares team in the Super 14 or Super 16 or 15, whatever it was at that time. And we then saw the improvement in the Argentinian side through how they played internationally because they were exposed to the Rugby Championship. Subsequently, they beat all the teams, including New Zealand, in that tournament because they had a team that was playing out-and-out rugby week in, week out through Super Rugby. And then they got yanked off, right? So then now similarly to what's happening with Fiji. So now Fiji's got that exposure, and then now they're doing well. My concern is you've got the likes of Japan. What's the plan with that? And it's the same story with Namibia. So I think in having them in the Currie Cup, I don't think that's enough because the Currie Cup now is being viewed as a tournament that is blooding in youngsters, whereas the Namibian side is a senior team that's competing in a Rugby World Cup. So I think more intent needs to be placed around them having been them or putting them in a more serious competition, so that we can get more competition out of them. We saw a beautiful game out of I think it was Portugal and Chile last night or last evening, but those are some of the sort of hints that you get out of putting in competitions, proper competitions for countries, and you get beautiful results. So I think definitely I agree with you guys that these guys need to they need to get more exposure out of it. Otherwise it doesn't help us having competition every 4 years and then we see results like this. But yeah, thanks. Lovely discussion. Yeah, those are my 2 points.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Lux. Vuyo, what are your thoughts regarding, obviously, what is Lux has shared with us as well? I think we're pretty much on the same line or aligned with his views regarding the pointers against what we've done against Ireland, what is currently transpiring with World Rugby and Namibia. Obviously, having coached Namibia previously as well, you understand the integral detail that's involved within their coaching structures or their union as it in itself as well. So going forward, what do you think would be the best plans for Namibia currently?
Yeah, Jade said it. I think it's either South Africa has to be the motherboard of their union and try and drive things towards excellence, because in any setup you need a driving force in terms of who's going to be driving the excellence factor. And I think that's where Namibia falls short because you can't bring in a coach every 2 years. For example, you bring in Allister in 2023, you bring in Allister January to come and try and win one game in a World Cup. So it's quite tough. I think the best thing, Ulak said, when I mentioned that South Africa obviously hasn't given a lot of things in these games because they wanted to win, but it goes down with the same thing now. In terms of Namibia, there's not much they can do except go back to the basics, fix the union first, and make sure that you're not just giving money. Because a lot of times, I was sitting in a meeting actually with some World Rugby representatives, and I got to find out how much money they're giving to the tier 2 nations. It's a good sum amount, but the problem is that they don't audit the money. They just give the money because you're in the World Cup. So a lot of people have been talking about downgrading the World Cup from those kind of teams to less teams. So which is fine. I think it's actually warranted. I think it's good. Yes, it's good for us to see teams like Chile, Namibia, Portugal in a World Cup, but it's actually not good when we see those kind of scores like we experienced a couple of days ago. So yeah, I don't know if there's much that can be done unless the people that are trying to fund the program can actually take a real look at what is inside the program.
Okay, fair enough. Moving along, Jade, sticking with Namibia, but not moving entirely along. We saw a big impact, obviously, a big tackle that transpired between Johan Deisel and Antoine Dupont on Friday. There was a big circus, basically, on social media regarding this particular tackle. Obviously, it's a contact sport, and everyone will get hurt at some point. There will be unintentional head knocks, collisions, rugby collisions that take place. And there seems to be a different narrative with this particular one because it involves Antoine Dupont. I mean, what are your thoughts? Obviously, it does have an impact on the French team, or we don't know how much of an impact it will have until we see them play against Italy or until we see them play in the first quarterfinal. But with regards to this, I mean, the mood and the anger directed by a lot of the Northern Hemisphere fan base at Deisel. I mean, are these the kind of things now we can expect with regards to rugby? We're not used to this in a rugby perspective. It's more on the football side where this banter takes place. But now there seems to be a mood that's changed over the years, the North versus South, but it's intensified over these couple of years, especially on a social media perspective. Now we're seeing rugby players having to apologize to other players for making tackles in 2023. What are your takes with regards to that?
Oh, guys, like I felt the tackle. He got a red card. He deserved the red, but there was no intent from him. He didn't go out to break Antoine Dupont's jaw. He got the red card. Was a rugby collision. He's got his punishment, but I'm telling you, the guy Johan Deisel must be feeling sick. What happened, what transpired from that. There was no way that he went out on that field wanting to injure Antoine Dupont. Because the French built this whole World Cup around Antoine Dupont, it feels like, the world is coming to an end now, which I don't think it is. I think they can still pick up the pieces. Might not be easy, but like Ruak said, with Ntamak and Dupont being out, it might not be easy. I mean, it's two of the world-class players being out, but it's not the end of the world. Guys, 95, I mean, Michael Jones didn't come to the 1995 World Cup. New Zealand still made a final. Dan Carter was out in 2011. John de Villiers was out in every single World Cup. South Africa's sitting without Malcolm Marx. So the show must go on. I mean, you can't dwell on it. Yes, Antoine Dupont might be the best player in the world at the moment, the poster boy of this World Cup, but the show must go on. And there was no intent from Johan Duisel. There was no intent. I mean, I can't take it anymore. Social media, keyboard warriors, criticizing or, saying negative things, causing guys to block or to close the Instagram accounts, abuse of them on social media. I mean, we've seen it from both sides. Just in the Super Rugby final, Ben O'Keefe had the same, insults on his account, and I'm pretty much sure he'll get the same insults after last night's game as well. So from both the South and the North, we get those insults, but it's sickening. To threaten, some of the messages I saw, threatening him, stating to him that he should never come back to his club in France, all of that stuff. That was absolutely sickening. The guy did not mean to do it. He had no intent to break Dupont's jaw. He did break his jaw. Unfortunately, it's a rugby incident. He got a red card. But come on, guys, it's a contact game. These things happen. Injuries happen.
Yeah, Vuyo. Were you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, Jen. I mean, as Jade has said, it was a rugby incident. It's nothing heavy. It's nothing. He didn't intend it to do to obviously harm. But one thing about Namibians, they're quite hard buggers. They like the hardness. I mean, it's almost like playing between Rovers and Collegians. If you're from Durban, you will know that game is like the big game. So it's like a UCT Marty's game. So for them, that's how they play their rugby every day. So I think for me, it's actually ridiculous to think that someone would be going out there to injure someone. And even if they did injure Antoine Dupont, if France World Cup is over, then let it be over. Because it's a rugby incident. There was no intent. And if they want to ban Duisel for the next 2 or 6 months, we don't care, because the big thing here is how was it supposed to make the tackle? Was it supposed to lie down and make the tackle, or was it supposed to try and stop the guy from creating something special? And for me, he tried to stop him. Yes, in an illegal way. It was a head clash. It wasn't a high tackle. It was a head clash. And because it was a head clash, I don't think that is I will call it an illegal situation. I will call it's a rugby collision. So for me, it's ridiculous what people are thinking out there. But anyway, it's Jean Duisel. I would have never apologized, because for me it would have been it happened. So I'm out. I've got a red card for it. So that's it. I feel very strongly about it, and that's why sometimes I even don't even watch much rugby lately because of that. Because of there's so many things that can turn a game. I mean, look at this situation. You get into a quarterfinal. You're gonna play New Zealand or France. First tackle. You are pumped. You want to be cleaning out a player, and then you get a head clash and you get a red card. That's your quarterfinal done, and that's possibly your team's quarterfinal done. So for me, that's why I actually think there's so much that can be done in terms of what we look at, what is the intent of the situation, and then they can make decisions from there.
Yeah, no, fair enough, understandable. Jade, yeah.
Can I say something controversial, Scoop? And I'm going to get a lot of sticker up from our viewers. But the lock of France, the tackle that they had on Uruguay, against Uruguay, there was more intent in that tackle, and it got a yellow card than the intent that Johan Duisel had on Antoine Dupont. I'm blood serious about it. It's
yeah.
There's a big difference, There was more intent and more force in that tackle than from what Johan Duisel gave Dupont.
Actually, there was not even an attempt to wrap. He literally leaned up with his shoulder into the head. Yes, the guy was being tackled by someone else, but we understand, obviously. I mean, there seems to be more leniency. I think Uluax also mentioned this in his chat earlier as well regarding France. If any team meets France in a quarterfinal and everyone is more leaning towards France making it to the final. So that quarterfinal is going to be difficult, first of all. You both fighting against French 23 players, and chances are the referee is more leaning towards the 50-50 decisions will probably lean towards France in that quarterfinal and the semi-final and most probably the final itself. So, yeah, it's very important that we get a bit of consistency, we get a bit of proper refereeing or officiating within these games. And obviously we don't get negative outreach or negative comments from fans in this regard, because fans now are starting to understand the game. Fans now are starting to understand the law, and every single incident is scrutinized. So referees need to also be accountable for making good decisions. They've been refereeing for a very long time. They need to make good decisions, accountable to their decisions, and also just be fair on everything on all calls that you make in every single rugby game as well. Lots, your final thoughts, and then we'll make some predictions for this rest of the week and the games coming up.
Yeah, I think we've got a interesting couple of weeks ahead of us. I mean, we've got a good game coming up between Tonga and Scotland. And don't make a mistake that think it's going to be easy. There's quite some formidable players in that Tongan side. And then later on, obviously, it's Eddie Jones's decider. I mean, we've seen some headlines coming out that he applied for a job in Japan. So, we don't know how the players are taking that. So, and I think then going forward, the Springbok management team has got some interesting decisions to make in terms of who they put in, who they take out. Especially considering Money in the Books playing, but yeah, some interesting perspectives that are going to come through in the dying minutes or sort of the dying days of the pool matches and the qualifiers. But I think all in all, it makes up for a good humdinger of knockout rugby, which is what we all want as rugby playing or rugby fans.
Fair enough. Vuyo, Australia, Wales tonight, your predictions?
Yes.
Eddie is back. Enough with the croissants.
My favorite person, bro. My favorite person. The one of the best coaches I look up to. Yes, it's tough. I'm gonna go with a win for Wales, but 2 points. But I don't know. There's something with the Wallaby squad, man, that's not settling for me. There's something about the Wallaby squad. Because they come out the blocks very well. And then there's a phase where they lose it. Where you don't know, what are they doing? What are they trying? Like, there's no one playing. So for me, I'm going to go Wales. I'm going to go Wales by probably 5 points.
Okay. Jade? Wales? Australia?
No. Draw. I honestly think this game could be a draw. I promise you guys. I honestly think this game could be a draw. But you know what? I want that Australia-England quarterfinal, guys. I think I just want that. I've been looking forward to it. I think the build-up to it will be brilliant. So that's why I'll go for the Wallabies. And for the game before that, I want to say Scotland against Tonga. Pray for Tuipolotu. Pray for Tuipolotu from Scotland because Tongan are going to target in the center. So pray for him, yeah.
No, fair enough. Gentlemen, we've come to the end of our installment tonight. Thank you very much for making time. And let's see each other next week, Sunday. And obviously, we'll be having enough engagements throughout the week on our social media platform, Twitter, and sometimes Facebook as well. But yeah, enjoy the Sunday, enjoy the rugby. Jade, you want to throw in final words?
Well, guys, so Friday night I'm feeling nervous with All Blacks against Italy. I hope Foster doesn't be Foster and embarrass us. So yeah, I'm low-key stressing over that one, but okay. Enjoy your week, guys. Enjoy your Heritage Day tomorrow. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Cheers. Have a good Sunday. Bye.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, fellas. Thanks for joining us, Lord. Cheers, man. Bye.